Cancer hijacks your brain, denying the reality you created for yourself. Rise from the ashes.
The rise from the
What's up, guys? There's an intense elemental overhaul of fire going on right now. I feel it. Not just kind of, on overhaul right now, especially since we're an hour and a half into Mars Day and not even 15 minutes into Mars Day. Some like screenshot gold just, completely vomited all over my social media. It's interesting. But it's cool. I actually made quite a bit of friends on a Facebook group for actually defending one of my Facebook buddies from having fake shit made up about her or something like that. But that's been a problem all over the board, right? So I figured I would just, instead of ranting and being a keyboard warrior, or going and being more or less counterproductive or less constructive, and going out and seeking out just trolling people online, because I could do that all day, and that's usually how Mars days kind of go. I figured I'd be a little bit more productive, proactive, and make a video about this and be more constructive about, in general, some of my vlogging and just maybe venting. I think I need to get some of this out, because myself, I have an intense, excessive amounts of fire in my chart. A lot of it is internal, with the planets that are associated internally, and so I naturally get hot. But since I'm a Gemini rising, my key planet would be Mercury, and it's actually in Scorpio, a water sign, that's conjunct with Pluto in Scorpio as well. Cool water and cool temperatures and cool environments is what makes me feel better. So when I actually get too hot or overheated, I actually start to feel sick. So even this morning, at 8 or 9 o'clock this morning, I was actually taking the coldest, sometimes I'll soak my feet in cold water just to get the blood flow to go somewhere else if I start to feel like I'm really there's too much blood flow going on up here, because that is a thing with fire moon signs. I just actually immersed myself in the coldest freaking bath I could, and I was even bummed because it wasn't cold enough, and I had to be in that for a couple hours and continue to put more cold water into it just for me to feel like I wasn't gonna vomit all day. And that's because we have a shit ton of fire going on. Obviously it's Leo season now, but as of right now we have Eris, Uranus, Vulcan, the Sun, Mars, the North Node, the Moon, Mercury, Lilith, Black Moon Lilith obviously, and Saturn, all in fire. And then the harmonious element with that is air, so that just either enables it or encourages it, or at least doesn't cause any kind of, truce or diminishing of the fiery kind of nature. It just engulfs the flames. So we have Venus, Jupiter, the benefics, the ones that give things, and the South Node and the Earth symbol. I know that's kind of have a different name than what I keep calling it. What is it? Oh, I guess it is Earth. Okay, there we go then. And then we have Pallas. Oh no, that's not an air sign. Sorry, got distracted. It's in a Taurus. So we have Venus, the benefics, and as well as the Earth symbol and the South Node in air. So that's just encouraging it. So the only things that are keeping us grounded are actually retrograde. So the benefits of feeling grounded are going to either be delayed or going to be on the back burner. So Pluto, Juno, Hygeia? Yeah. And Pallas is the only one that's actually direct. And then we also have Vesta and the trans Pluto in Virgo. But Virgo's kind of a weird one, and that's not me trying to mock Virgos and be picky about it. But because they're Earth, but they're also ruled by Mercury, they're kind of a double agent. That, I guess, is not an intentional, but probably a subconscious pun about, the mythological deities of Mercury. But anyway, so, I thought I was going to talk about something interesting. So I'm actually just going to bask in the entertainment glory of perhaps some of the things that were talked about on Facebook, just for the sake of showing people this is, I'm not saying this is typical for everybody, but because I have squares with Mars, and since Mars is in my house itself and it squares planets in the house of others, and then I have oppositions as well with Eris, my Mars days are always super eventful, and regardless of how it manifests, it's always intense. Like, I've even, actually strategically decided to sleep all day on Mars Day. That was kind of my method or my tactic, like part of passive last year. But even then, I'll still have nightmares where I'll be woken up, just rudely throughout the day. So, regardless, it's intense and combative, and to a normal person, traumatizing would be an appropriate word. But trauma's kind of my middle name, and I wear it proud. I have malefics on my angles, so there's that. But another interesting thing with just, I have an app on my phone that I just reference, honestly, the chart grid. But just on occasion, especially when I'm feeling a little bit too fixed or having some cognitive dissonance with elemental clashes with my Mercury or something like that, or my Jupiter's really on a like manic mode, which it has been lately, I will try to keep myself in check by just reviewing some of the interpretations that aren't mine. So, Sun conjunct Mars denotes strong energetic will, but inclined to passion, courage, vitality, strength is added to your personality, gives you power for creative attainment. You have a hot-blooded temperament, enjoy a challenge and desire to be in the limelight. Is an excellent aspect for hard physical work. Should not be carried to extremes. Sometimes excess energy generated can be used too much to cope with. On the negative side, you may have a tendency for exaggeration, impulsiveness, and aggression. I'm always a little feisty. And then we have Sun squaring Uranus, and so personality difficulties that need to be acknowledged and overcome may be concerned with a strong, revolutionary, unconventional tendency to be erratic, unstable personality that is likely to go to extremes. This influence tends to make one impulsive, rash, spasmodic, erratic, and inclined to leap before looking. There is a fondness for risky ventures, unsound enterprises, and romance. This energy, if channeled into positive creative work, can produce adventurous, liberal, enterprising spirit with high ideals. And then we have Moon conjunct Mercury gives you a splendid intellect, quick, witty, adaptable, intuitive, and good perception. There is a direct link between your logic and reasoning mind and higher unconscious mind. You are objectively aware of your emotional nature and should be able to perceive how thoughts and environmental responses affect your feelings. And that's actually emulated perfectly with that that screen caps I'll read off. And then, so we have Moon trine Uranus gives you vivacious, unconventional, energetic outlook to life with a dislike of restrictions. You are original in your ideas and have a liking for scientific, metaphysical, philosophical, or occult subjects, especially astrology. You are active, firm, enterprising, and scientific, fond of friendships and of the opposite sex. The aspect tends to stimulate the imagination, quicken thought, and intuition. This leads the mind into original lines and gives interest in methods, inventions, curiosities, etc. You will eventually break away from all convention as your higher mind begins to awake, able to cast off the fetters and bind and strike out new paths for yourself. You have a character that is in many respects unique, and you should achieve much with your life, perhaps through unusual accomplishments, through original, inventive, and progressive people. You may display psychic, healing, or telepathic abilities. Mars Day is always my, ether hotline day. Let's see. This aspect is regarded as one of the best possible regarding the mind. It indicates original, expansive, inquiring, quick-witted, and intuitive mental disposition, brilliant to the point of genius. An interest in science, electronics, mathematics, new technologies likely. You are good at assessing character and have an inner perception that enables you to understand your surroundings quickly. You are inventive. You have a wide mental outlook. As life advances, you will grow more deeply interested in higher thought and will be attracted to metaphysical, literary, and occult studies. Sociably communicative. Your desire to exchange views and thoughts with other people with the urge to give and also to receive stimulating ideas through common interests. Yup. Let's see. I already checked the Uranus one. Possible problems in your affections and your ability for harmonious relationships may come through inhibited ability to express your real feelings for fear of rejection. This definitely highlights the special snowflake that I call Ask Clown McGee. There's a group on Facebook called the Uncensored Astrology Group. It's one of the only groups that I have been unsuccessful with being banned. And it's because this one takes more of a libertarian kind of say what you want and be adults view. If you can't handle it, then you should have never came. So it's like a combi Christ day. Like I feel the verge. Like I would honestly like hit a punching bag, but I think I probably might keel over from heat exhaustion. So I have a buddy that's a internet pal and astrology fan. Her name's Rachel. There's this I kind of remembered after she messaged me, after all the drama kind of simmered down, that it's somebody who I think was trolling my YouTube channel not too long ago. Like, I don't think it was the lady that like left me 60 comments on like different videos or something like that saying I'm horrible. I still don't know who that person is. But this one, I think he's really bothered that I'm missing eyebrows, and apparently he thinks that my friend Rachel sets people up to be killed on Google, or sets up people to be killed. A hitman? He's definitely kind of on the verge of being autistic. That's definitely sure. I wasn't entirely sure who he was. Apparently he's his name is Jeremy Consevier or whatever, and he's from Canada. And I know this sounds totally fucked, and I don't give a shit, but I kind of blame South Park to an extent. But then also, a lot of people I either read about or engage with online, or even meet in public from Canada are freaking tards. I don't know what it is. So when I saw it was from Ottawa, Canada, I'm like, oh god. I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to really, really be patient. I have no patience for derp ass. But it's way beyond that. So somebody said in the group that they Googled that and found nothing. And then he goes, I find lots of things when I Google. And I'm just like, dude, you're so fucking autistic. And then some chick is actually trying to be nice. And I don't know if she's a Pisces or something like that. But she says, also, not that hard to figure out, your other real name is Alex Hutt. I didn't even give a fuck about that. Honestly, I didn't even give a fuck about this at all. I don't pay attention to this group too often because, first off, half the group doesn't even know shit about astrology. Thirdly, most of it are trolls, and if anything, there's barely a rare audience that actually appreciates any kind of authentic, educational kind of sarcastic commentary, which is pretty much all I say. So it kind of just goes over people's heads. It wastes my time, and I'm then potentially just blurting out shit that some next Alyssa Sharp can steal for a fucking book she's gonna, release on Amazon or something. But anyway, so he says no, but good try, and then she goes, I don't really care. I just want to know what the beef is. And then he goes, not my beef. I just found it and I thought it was hilarious. And she says, you're a terrible liar. I did read that article about how you can't lie to empaths. And definitely true. So then I said, I got contacted by my friend Audrey, who's part of this group as well, who said, hey, I think your friend's getting, like, basically roasted. And then she linked it to me, and then she hyperlinked my name into the conversation. I was like, oh, okay. So I went and took a look. I usually don't even bother, catching up with anything like that on Facebook or social media unless somebody links my name. Because I can get sucked into basically being a troll all damn day and not being productive. And that gets tiresome. And that doesn't actually help my reputation professionally. But anyway, so I said, wait, so you're going to play that you coincidentally found this group and happened to post it in the group that Rachel frequents. If it wasn't for the fact you're trying so hard, I figured you'd be a troll. What did she do? Turn you down? And then I casted a chart for the moment he posted this. And I used his location in Canada. If that's even where he is. But regardless, if he's in the major continental United States, the aspects would be fairly close and similar. That a lot of it has to do with some difficult aspects to Venus and Saturn and with Uranus as well. So I highlighted with the chart that I casted Chiron Pisces because it's the victim narrative. Because essentially the only kind of positive commentary or even neutral commentary this person gave, whoever he is when this one chick says, well, I really want you to resolve whatever's wrong with you, and if you need somebody to talk to, then I'll go ahead and message you, and you're more than welcome to message me. And then he like put a smiley face, and he started acting, responding positively, which he's seeking attention. That's a very stereotypical kind of trait, histrionic kind of tendencies with Leos. And since we are not only in an excessive amount of fire, but Leo season now, and we have the sun, moon, the moon will probably be out of Leo here by the time this video is uploaded, but the sun, moon, Mercury, and Mars are all in Leo, and the North Node. So anyway, I highlighted the whole victim kind of thing with Chiron Pisces, and it being in the first house at this moment, so it representing the self, and then also Mars squaring Uranus. And it highlights problems with behavior recognized may come through reckless, impulsive, dangerous action. Influences tend to make you somewhat erratic and eccentric. You're enthusiastic and at times irritable, inclined to be over-energetic and also too forceful. This aspect is likely to bring you legal troubles, difficulties connecting with the opposite sex. It is also difficult owing to the fact that most of the events during your life will tend to be sudden and unexpected. Avoid entering into disputes and guard against exposing yourself to any dangerous situations. You should endeavor to become more calm, less rashly inclined, and don't allow yourself to become overly excited. And then the Venus-Saturn opposition, possible problems with your affections and ability for harmonious relationships may come through the inhibited ability to express your real feelings of fear, rejection, shyness, and overly cautious nature. That was the one that I kind of was mumbling right before I put my phone down. So I showed that in the chart, which I'm happy I got like 5 or 6 new friends from that and a couple likes on my business page just from humoring this bullshit and defending my friend Rachel. So my friend Audrey goes, isn't this one of your friends? And I'm like, what the fuck, Rachel? I'm like, claps, Rachel. Girl, what glorious thing did you do to make this Jeremy guy so butthurt? And I got a couple likes for that. That's pretty funny. Everybody found this really amusing. And then somebody says, is that his chart? Oh my fucking god. Yeah, that's how nasty it is right now. At least like fiery and combustible, explosive. And then I said, you're pretty stupid. Normally I wouldn't even bother, but I'm just milking this for the sake of exploiting the screen caps later, so go on, special one. And then I mentioned to the person who asked if that's his chart. Said no, I casted the chart of the moment that he posted that to see what are the psychological motives or kind of hopes or intentions kind of thing with his post. And so he says, Rachel commented on one of my posts and the name looked familiar because I remembered it and I saw this in another Astro group. There's a Twitter and everything. Not my problem. I think it's fucking hilarious. People should act better if they don't want this kind of stuff to happen to them. Fucking. So this is the fool that, like, makes fun of me, apparently. At least Rachel's speculating, and she's continually humored this group more than I would. And this guy's a troll in there all the time. But, she's convinced that it's that the guy who is really, really traumatized by me not having eyebrows. And I've seen her, like, in my notifications kind of go back and forth with somebody, but I think I might have blocked one of his accounts just because he was getting fucking annoying. It was just annoying. And, so I said, yeah, sure. And, yeah, I'm just so flabbergasted by how I can't even, like, I was waiting for him to go, ha, psych, but, like, the fact that he wasted so much time and stuff, I'm actually going to go into why I know for a fact it can't be just a troll thing from a personal reflection sort of thing with myself. But I'll get into that after I read this. So, that one chick goes, totally, you really showed her. And it's like, I don't even know her, I don't give a fuck, just entertaining myself with you all. And I said, charts don't lie, Sparky, you're pathetic. And then, said, yeah. Keep going. For some reason I duplicated stuff. And then he goes, aren't you a doll? Draw some chart and now that's me, LOL. And I'm like, yeah, the chart of the moment. Don't you guys see the fucking date at the top? Jesus Christ. Like, I thought that this was supposed to be like an ingenious, intuitive time for, collectively, for everyone, the transits right now. Apparently, maybe I'm the only one kind of catching that wave or something. But I say I'm a professional astrological counselor, and my strengths are psychology, medieval, malefic interpretations, and how it correlates with mental disorders. I'm just using your histrionic shit fit as a legit example for educational purposes, honestly, but feel flattered if that's what you want to tell yourself. The sun going near my, the sun and Mars being in conjunct with my Black Moon Lilith and my third house communications. Yeah, definitely apparent. And my smart ass is on point, as my friend Alan says. And then he calls me an idiot, and I said, I know, right? And he says, is Jeremy even real retard? So, right there and then, he just, gave away that he's a fake profile. Like, I give a fuck anyway. I got like 5 or 6 fake profiles, and nobody even knows what they are. And I haven't even used them in years. I don't even remember what the email is anymore. Because I don't need to do that anymore. In fact, that kind of, just admitting that and acknowledging that right now is foreshadowing what I'm going to talk about and why I'm completely aware of what stupid, immature bullshit and underlying problems he actually has because of his behavior this way. In fact, you could go back through my social media, like dig up some really old handlers and stuff even, and even back to my very, very early posts on Facebook, and yeah, I was pretty much the female version of this dude. Well, okay, I would like to think that I wasn't this bad. I think I actually am too scattered to continue to be this consistent with the keyboard warrior status. But anyway, so I said, your username is irrelevant to the context of the psychotic Uranus moon aspect shit fit that you're showcasing. I could give a shit less if your name was Ass Clown McGee. It's still gold to me. And he goes, you know nothing about fucking psychology. I'm shining all around, LOL. Okay. Yeah, no, because everybody's like, it's the train wreck that everybody has to watch. Or the damn fucking wreck on the side of the road. Mars Day is notorious for wrecks, unless it's Mercury Day and Mercury's retrograde. And I get so pissed, even when it's just like, like a little bumper thing. And everybody's got to slow down 10, 15 miles, not under the speed limit, not because there's actual sirens or cars or cops, but just because they can't fucking mind their own business and they gotta stare. That's exactly what was happening here. It's shining all around. Yeah, you're shining because maybe your brights are on and people are like, what the fuck, dude? But anyway, so I said, I know, right? I couldn't possibly be smarter than you. What was I thinking? I should really check myself, LOL. And then I said, it's actually super depressing that you rob the atmosphere of oxygen when you have nothing better to do than act like Pallas with a Jupiter bolt up your ass. You owe an apology to the trees. Oh, I get a gold star for that one. I love that insult. I don't pull that out very often, but he definitely deserved it. And then somebody says, ooh, group drama, and then popcorn. I said, alright, I don't think this can get any better. Peace out, Asperger's histrionic schizo kid. Go tell your doctor to up the dose of your antipsychotics. And, yeah. So then I decided just to turn around and be a little bit educational, especially since he starts going, where's your PhD? And I'm like, I have to answer to anybody first off, and why the fuck am I answering to sock account? And thirdly, who the fuck are you? And fourthly, I just demonstrated that I actually know what the fuck I'm talking about. Hence why the entire audience actually is now my friend and liked my astro psychoanalysis counseling page because of the commentary with this. So I decided, just for the sake of it, because I like to waste my time with screen caps, as I've been told, because apparently that's so counterproductive and a waste of my life and time. But so I posted the symptoms and diagnosis kind of details with Asperger's syndrome, schizotypals, and histrionic. So this one is Asperger's, and it's a syndrome condition with the autistic spectrum with generally higher functions. People with this condition may be socially awkward and have an all-absorbing interest in specific topics. Communication training and behavioral therapy can help with this syndrome. It's more predominant in males than females. Ask Clown McGee, Jeremy, or Derek, or whoever he is, you anti-bra guy. One common denominator is they're all men, so there's that. More probability, right? So then the actual behavioral quirks of it is aggression, compulsive behavior, fidgeting, impulsivity, repetitive movements, social isolation, persistent repetition of words and actions. He does repeat himself quite often. Then again, stupid people don't really have that much to say. Can't elaborate on much if you don't know much. The inability to combine muscle movements, poor coordination, and etc., and tics. Their moods are usually angry, anxious, or apprehension. And it's also common for them to have depression, intense interest in limited number of things, learning disabilities, nightmares, and sensitive to sound, and also butthurt or something. And then histrionic is genes play a role in this development, and also abuse and instability during childhood could also increase the risk. Then a person with histrionic personality disorder seeks attention, obviously, talks dramatically and with strong opinions, is easily influenced, has rapid change in emotions, and thinks relationships are closer than they are. Symptoms of that would be preoccupation with physical appearance, seeks the center of attention, and talks dramatically. That's where the stereotype of it being associated with Leo archetype comes into play. Considers relationships closer than they are and easily influenced by others, and depression. And inappropriately sexual or provocative behavior and rapid shifts in emotion. A person with this, I already emphasized on that, it just repeats that. And then I also threw in schizotypal, which is strange thinkings or behavior, unusual beliefs, discomfort in social situations, lack of emotion and inappropriate emotional responses, odd speech that may be vague or rambling, a lack of close friends, extreme social anxiety, and paranoia. I also fit the bill for that. Never been officially diagnosed with that, but guessing since Mayo Clinic actually doesn't have the top results on Google, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual 5 probably has eliminated schizotypal or combined it with another disorder anyway. Probably like paranoia disorder, that would make sense. But yeah. So then the bleeding heart empath person on here goes, I'm here for you if you want to talk in PM. And it's like, I'm a Libra rising with a full 4th house. I could probably see things from your perspective and help you get perspective on why on earth you're acting like this. And I just say, histrionic. And it said, plus Chiron Pisces retrograde and Leo stellium too. Hello. And then she goes, I'm serious. If the chemistry is right, I would probably fuck you. Oh, wow. I didn't even read that comment. Wow. What is going on with... Wow, I friended that person too. Woo, okay. Well, I mean, I think I probably have worse or have had worse on my friends list, so I mean... Oh, don't judge. I'm just like, whew, wow. I actually skimmed over that part. I was just screen capping like a mad woman. Woo, I'm just gonna leave my own commentary out of that. I'm super opinionated right now. And yeah, whew, okay. Anyway, whew. Let's, then just to make it better, I guess, just sidetrack for a second, so I can stop being baffled by that. 5 minutes later, my counter jihad coalition page, which is just spreading awareness about how Muslims don't like non-Muslims and what they like to do to people that aren't Muslim. And I share stories about actual events and stuff and footage of, what they like to do to non-Muslim people. Share the love. Salah Alakum or whatever the fuck. Some chick who actually lives in my town. And she's white and wearing a hijab. And I swear she was the chick that worked at Arby's last year, because I was like, how the fuck is there a person wearing a hijab in the Arby's drive-thru? How did she hijack Arby's? Because they can't even fucking touch my food. It's got bacon and pig shit all in it. Like, the whole fucking inside is crawling with bacon. And pig remnants. Like, how is she not being stoned for this? Like, anyway, and then I was freaking out. I'm like, oh god, I hope she's really, really moderate and she uses toilet paper, because I know that they don't like to do that. But anyway, she says, Salah Akum, are you Muslim? Why on earth? I get it though. They definitely condition their, like, you know, sales pitch, like telemarketing kind of, you know, moderate Muslim persona that they're supposed to do to, you know, kafirs or non-Muslims. They're definitely on point and consistent. Because she's trying to come at me like really optimistic and nice and welcoming. And she says, are you Muslim? I'm like, you know for a fact I'm not Muslim. The little snippets of commentary on some of those posts that I post, because I get upset about it. Any justifiable human being with some sort of fucking soul or feelings or empathy would. And so I said, can't say that I am. Too smart to be enslaved. Get too hot to wear a headscarf, definitely. I mean, I'm sweating balls here when I'm wearing a tank top half the time. And I even still have an AC and a fan going. And it's night. So, and apparently it's 76 degrees and I still feel hot. I know that's all the fire too, but still. So I was like, I get too hot to wear a headscarf, and I'm too independent, outspoken, and alpha woman to convert to Islam. They'd stone me ASAP. And I was expecting, I'm being a smart ass, but I was expecting, you know, some kind of like, what the fuck back. Her response right off the bat was, LOL, that's actually pretty funny. Which, that raises a bunch of red flags right there. I mean, I'm already well aware of their projection and their facade that they're trying to push or whatever. But if you understand psychology too, the fact that she didn't go, what? Kind of like, for example, right before I read this off, I was like, what? Like, normal people wouldn't, I don't know what the heck that empath chick's talking about, or she's just really starving. Maybe it's that aspect that said that you're really, really intense for romance or something right now, but I'm like, what? Like, that's not normal. So, like, you'd think that normal people would be all like, well, I would be stoned ASAP. So if she was actually trying to come to me like she is being a compassionate human being, how did she not go, what? When I said that they'd stone me? Or, like, say, like, they wouldn't do that. She just goes, that's pretty funny. Because she knows that I know that that's how they do that. And she herself, her motives, are not actually to be civil with me whatsoever. So the fact that that's why, like, if you ever take an employment kind of quiz, like, or whatever, test after you do the application, and everybody's annoyed because it asks you, like, 50 fucking questions, and every 3 questions or so, it's the same fucking question, just reworded differently, and you have to, like, gauge, like, you know, most likely or least likely. The reason why you have to do those repetitive questions is because they're looking to see if you're bullshitting and just putting on a front in a direct response to one question. So it's a psychological game. And I actually used to ace the fuck out of those things because I could go, I hate fucking working at this place. I'm not good with people. I can't stand fucking being in crowded areas. I can't stand humoring people that don't know what they're talking about and want me to, like, you know, basically be a slave to them and be at their beck and call, which is hello customer retail service kind of thing. So I had to fucking lie. I found out, you know, just the traditional way, what happens if you're honest on those tests and you never get a fucking job. Then I realized, I'm like, oh shit, well maybe I should try something else. And after I was told by a manager, where I got hired somewhere, that yeah, you totally flunked the test, but we really need people. And then he kind of told me, we became buddies. I was like, so I'm an expert at acing those tests now. But not because I'm a people person, but because I'm well aware of the psychological kind of trickery or mind fuck that those things are. Which is why I'm really good at picking up shit like this as well. And apparently with the 29 degrees in Leo in quite a few of the personal planets, causing that ingenious, intuitive kind of insight is definitely amping up my observations and stuff like that. But yeah, when she just says, oh, that's actually pretty funny. It wasn't even like, because this was during the conversation. It took her literally maybe 2 minutes or so to say that. So it's not like she paused and then decided that was going to be her response. That was her immediate response. So, LOL, that's actually pretty funny. So then I responded, but to each their own. Blessings to you, to whomever you look to. I obviously totally just was being a smart asshole and just played her game right back to her, and she probably I don't know, depends on how self-aware she is, because I'm not actually sure if they're just conditioned that well to kind of reiterate some sort of, pitch, and or if they are a little bit more psychologically aware of things. But if she is, then she knows that I was being a shithead right there. But yeah, that was only like 30 minutes into Mars Day, and then she sent me another response instantly, and I'm gonna leave that alone. It's only 2 a.m. and there's still another there's still another at least 10 hours to go of Mars Day, and I have a feeling it's not going to dwindle down. At least when the moon is now out of Leo, which will probably be soonish. In fact, let's see, animate. Hours. Kind of jumping the gun by 20 minutes. Oh, no, the moon's still in Leo. Okay, when does it go out? So, at about 5 a.m., so tomorrow, daybreak, it'll be in Virgo, which, God, that's actually not good either. I mean, no. No, that's not good, no. My brother has a Virgo moon. I feel so bad for him. Whew, no thanks. But anyway, so what I was getting at, I want to talk about Uranus and trauma signatures. So Uranus, essentially, is the symbolizes the way in which you are going to experience some sort of traumatizing or some sort of chaos in your life that is going to actually shake your foundations and make or break you. More often break people than anything. And sometimes the breaking needed to happen. That's more of a Plutonian perspective of that. You have to burn the remnants of all and then rise from the ashes. And I do that quite a bit. But the intensity of the Uranus-Pluto square energy finally actually catching up to my personal planets is actually now becoming even more apparent, or at least the transition has happened, and some of it was, instantaneous and painfully forceful in general with everything and overwhelming. And that also has to do with the fact that Neptune's transiting my 10th house. But essentially I had Pluto in Capricorn, because I have Neptune at the 8th degree, I believe, of Capricorn. Once Pluto started going over my Neptune, it started to make my Jupiter my 12th house, which is about my beliefs and higher knowledge and kind of just understanding with things that you know. Jupiter is associated with what you know. And so it started to slowly kind of get the gears moving in my head, and I wasn't so much of an Alyssa Sharp kind of person, which I totally used to be. I could even, maybe for the hell of it, I know I probably have raw footage somewhere, or I can just, rip it from YouTube on here, and just show a little clip of, my showcased airheadest moment, where I was actually genuinely trying to be smart, and talking the talk, or trying to talk the talk, but you actually can't walk the walk. Maybe it's not always easy for everybody else to pick up on the fact that your coordination is totally not in sync with your mouth, but it is for me, and that's also because that was something that I struggled with for a long time. I have Uranus in Sagittarius. Sagittarius again has to do with Jupiter, and Uranus is ruled by Aquarius, and I actually have the ruler of my 9th house, the ingress of that, is actually Aquarius. So there is a obvious, distinct kind of energy connection between anything that's a facet of Jupiter and anything that is a facet of Uranus. And that's Sagittarius and Aquarius, vice versa. So Uranus being in Sagittarius would be, I'm going to have chaos or be traumatized or experience what would be categorized as traumatizing events or scenarios because of my beliefs or something to do with what I know. So when I used to know absolutely fucking nothing, and I used to project the more narcissistic kind of thing because I felt insecure, Chiron in my first house, which is actually funny that during that transit of that actual post that guy made, Chiron was actually in the first house. So it's obviously not in the same sign, but you get the gist. The placement of an actual chart point or planet in a particular house does affect those facets of that house in the same way. So Chiron in the first house of self would be some sort of insecurities or lack of confidence in one's own self abilities or just the self being able to do anything at all. And then I have Uranus opposition that in the 7th house. So Uranus and Sagittarius, I'm going to be traumatized by either being made fun of for things maybe I don't. I was actually the one inflicting the trauma or bringing the chaotic Uranus energy to scenarios and incidents before the Uranus-Pluto square alignments began and the influence actually started to unfold, because deep down I didn't feel confident. I had insecurity issues, which is, something that is evident with Chiron in the first house. I also did have some, obviously Saturn is opposing it as well. My moon is opposing it. So my emotions, I didn't actually believe in myself, and I felt like I was emotionally damaged or worthless or weak or not worthy. And so that was something that I had to get over. Fascinatingly enough, Gemini rising, right? So Mercury is my key planet, and it's in a water sign. So water Mercuries, and essentially, just like with the generalization with the element, they learn through feeling, or their entire essence of that planet's function starts with their feelings or their emotions. So Scorpio Mercuries are very intelligent and are often, kind of stereotyped as Sherlock Holmes sort of archetypes. And if you would have seen me before the Uranus-Pluto square kind of thing, you wouldn't have even guessed that I was a Scorpio Mercury. In fact, I was able to tell people I wasn't, and I used to, because I used to be like, ew, Scorpios, because I dated a couple. I have an Plutonians and Scorpio kind of archetypes are magnetized to me naturally, either because of my subconscious kind of mannerisms and behavior, and or because they can pick up on things that I'm interested in or I say throughout my communication, my Mercury and Pluto, and they're just gravitated towards me. So there's lower evolved Scorpios do tend to be abusive. So I've been a Plutonian my whole life, and just as I said, some of the lower evolved ones tend to inflict abuse or be abusive with or without their knowledge. And me actually going on the defensive every time, and it would be, sometimes people would correct me and they're actually, being ruthless and mean about it, but then there would be just some people like, no, I don't think you understand what you're talking about, or your facts aren't right. And I would instantly, because I feel insecure with not just myself, but Chiron being in Gemini, what I actually know and information that I actually absorb and how I God, I'm having a brain fart. How I perceive things and everything. I felt like I was incapable of doing so. So my instant defensive, Plutonian kind of sense, Mars in my 5th house of self, opposition with Eris too. And as Philip Sedgwick says, if you don't know about Eris and you don't know where Eris is in your chart, she's going to cause you a bunch of hell. I obviously didn't know much about the asteroids until probably recently, maybe within the last 6 months at most. And so that would have definitely been a time when I didn't know shit about Eris either. And Eris being in the 11th house of trauma as well. So, and it being in Aries. So Aries is, proactive, confrontational, combative, and definitely goes on the defensive or the offensive, and is dominating and over-assertive right off the bat, just naturally without them even realizing it. So when I start to feel defensive, starting with my Mars in Virgo, and my Sun's also in that 5th house as well, and so is Venus, I instantly, the intense energy of me feeling inadequate jumps to the Eris in my 11th house, and then will go, actually, it goes off to a couple more aspects, but then it just, because it's in the house, the 11th house of Uranus and Aquarius, if it doesn't have another aspect that it pings off of, it's like, you know, like a, God, not ping pong, but pinball. That's what it always makes me think of. If it had no other major aspect or trine or sextile, you know, that would enable it, that energy to flow, to reflect to or direct to, then it's going to direct to its house ruler, which is Uranus. So Uranus and Saturn and the Moon, and Ceres and Halimea, and Halimea's got a hot temper too. Those are all in the stellium and Sagittarius in my chart, are all in the 7th house of others. So when I would feel like somebody took a shot at me, regardless if it was legitimate or self-imagined, I instantly went into psychopathic, psychotic meltdown, just like that guy did on these screen caps. So it's not even so much that, I think it's a couple things. So when Jupiter's associated with what you know, it being in my 12th house, it's, you know, ruling or reciprocating sign would obviously be Neptune, so in my 8th house. So the 8th house is of my self-secrets. So when you are looking at, like, what are my secrets? And so it's in Capricorn, so my reputation is a secret, or the kind of persona or whatever, or facade I give off is fake. And that was my secret for a long time. And that's why I've completely flipped it on its head, and I'm completely authentic and raw, and even share too much information at this point to keep myself in check so I don't do those kinds of things again, like I did in my past. And that's also why I actually had sock accounts and fake accounts, and I would do all those kinds of things. And that could be another story, another day, going into the extensive efforts and years that I actually put in to developing certain, basically tricking some people into thinking I'm actually a real person, and the extent of how much I kept the profiles up, and even, you know, coercing some of my, you know, close girlfriends in high school and middle school to also make fake accounts and to go and frequent and fake on them and have dialogue with me to make it look real. Yeah, it was extensive. So this guy, I'm well aware of how he is and the way that he's lashing out. Yeah, definitely showing narcissistic tendencies. So the core of narcissism is that person actually feels inadequate, so they project an over-exaggerated, overzealous sense of entitlement and importantness, and trying to convince everybody else that they think that they're the shit. But the way that projection works and psychological defenses work is that if you're continually wasting your energy and effort to try to convince people of other things, when, you know, beyond the whole quick having, here's my statement, my speculations, my hypothesis, here's my evidence to, you know, support it, and then here's my conclusion. If you have to elaborate more in dialogue or anything of the sort than that, it's projection. That's just cut and dry right there. So once I actually started having Pluto go over my Neptune, it started to actually, first, it wasn't even so much that, like, everybody started to notice that I was stupid. I started to actually realize that I wasn't fooling anyone. That was what it was. Because I have Neptune square my sun in my natal chart as well. And my sun's in the house of self. So instead of that being something like my secrets were getting revealed, because I am a malefic archetype, more or less, so everything's kind of on the flip side, and having Uranus on the descendant also, that kind of makes everything Wonderland for me. So the stereotypical aspects, assumptions, and stuff like that, usually it's the exact opposite. In fact, I actually interpret some of my like return charts and progressions by looking at interpretations or symbolism and just automatically assuming the polarity or opposite, and that's actually on point accurate. So instead of, again, Pluto kind of outing me or revealing that, it actually made me self-aware and lifted that Sun square Neptune and transformed that disillusionment and disassociative kind of ideations that I actually thought I was fooling people. And as that continued to happen, and I became aware of that, I was just like, well, I'm fucking stupid. And what am I doing with my life, and where am I going with shit? And if I'm going to continue to fake that I'm into astrology, or fake that I'm into this and stuff, and it's not fooling anybody, and I'm not actually making any profit or money off of this or benefiting from it, and I'm going to continue to perpetuate this facade, I need to actually do it for real, or I need to fucking get a life, or go somewhere else, or not have one. And I know that the commentary of not having one is not necessarily therapeutic or appropriate, or I should encourage that, but that's more of a Plutonian Freudian slip that I just had. But anyway, so Pluto's at 15 degrees of Capricorn right now. It was probably a little bit before Jupiter went into Virgo that I started to come to these conclusions, and the transformation began. And when Jupiter was in Virgo, it was conjunct with my Mars, which is my motivations. So Virgo Mars is manic and really a perfectionist, more or less, and it being square with my Uranus, my Saturn, my Moon, and then being trine to my Jupiter as well in the 12th house, it was pretty much like, you're going to do this or you're going to die trying. And that's pretty much what I've done, and I'm definitely overwhelming to the point of where I burn myself out. And even when me and Eustace broke up for like 6 to 7 months, and he left, and he came back, he says that I have like twice as many books as I had the 6 months prior. And I know that I've been hoarding them, and somehow just randomly, by luck, with Jupiter in the 12th house, accumulating them, and really good ones at that. It has been a very snowballing kind of slippery slope with that, but most things usually are with me. So then we fast forward to, obviously Uranus has been in Aries. I have Jupiter in the 27th degree of Aries, and it's retrograde, so retrograde is always delayed, and retrograde with Jupiter actually translates to having some sort of odd beliefs or perspectives, or having some sort of delayed with education or understanding and meaning. So the delay is evident. I'm pushing 30 almost, and yeah, I feel like I just started using my brain a couple years ago. And so as you know, Uranus has kind of been an orb to my Jupiter, because it's actually on top of it and going past it at this point now. That's when I started to really tap into some really impressive, and it's not even impressive like I'm trying to brag, just in comparison to anything I've ever done, kind of concepts and theories. And then even reading some books later by astrologers that have, like Robert Hand, for example, and Mark Jones. I don't know how long Mark Jones has been an astrologer. I don't know how long Philip Sedgwick's been. Well, Philip Sedgwick has been practicing astrology since 1975. Sorry, and I know that Robert Hand's been doing it for a long, long time. But the fact that I actually have, I'm either when I walked into Norwalk 3 years ago, I tried to listen to some of the lectures, and I really attentively listened and took thorough notes. I didn't understand half the fucking shit they were talking about. The following year, I was excited because I actually was able to process what some of them were saying, and I even asked questions, and even asked, like, what do you think about, Black Moon Lilith associated with the trauma signatures, and blah, 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 blah. And even Mark didn't actually have any thorough knowledge or research. He hasn't dabbled into that with Black Moon Lilith and the North and South Node and the Uranus trauma signatures. So I felt proud of myself because I actually I wasn't a Lilith expert per se at that point in time, but and I'm still getting better. I wouldn't even say I'm an expert still, but the fact that somebody who I looked up to, that like, oh my god, like he knows freaking everything, I'll never be as smart as him, that I actually started getting into something that he may not even have researched yet himself. And then when I went to some of Robert Hand's lectures this year, my third year, it's already stuff that I've actually read, and I've been making my own commentary for inserts for the book that I'm working on, that are almost exactly the kind of paraphrasing that he used. In fact, I made a video about how you need to understand the 7 ancient associated planets, their dual natureships, and how there's commonalities between the houses that represent the signs that share the duality of those planets. He actually did a lecture on that, and yeah, I walked into that, and he was basically saying like for instance, Venus is ruled by Libra and Taurus. So naturally, despite the fact that they're not polarities on the wheel, they do have some sort of common denominators and correlating kind of associations with each other, and they will both, coincide with each other if there's certain strong signature aspects to your Venus. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm yeah. So the fact that it wasn't even like I was excited this year. In fact, my mentality from Normac year 2 to this year 3, was, oh my god, I was like, I actually know what's going on, and I'm a part of the group, and oh my god, I feel like, I know I'm a noob, but I feel like I'm actually, like, at least, like, I'm worthy of being here. And then this year I'm like, dude, I don't even want to fucking come back. Dude, I walked out of lectures because, the speaker was kind of just, I don't know, having a Neptunian moment, or cognitive dissonance, or some sort of personality conflict, and they weren't even saying anything, of it informative value or anything. And yeah, I went from not knowing shit the first year to dozing off, even with, appropriate amounts of sleep, dozing off and actually snoring and falling asleep in a workshop that I paid for, and I left because I didn't want to be rude. But it's just an intense, drastic difference, and that's not the first time I've gone through intense transformation. Same kind of thing happened when I was in high school also, but on a physiological level. More so because that would have been when Pluto's like finishing off in my 6th house and going through my 7th or whatever, and I got into sports hardcore. And since Sagittarius is notorious, stereotypically wise, for being active and sporty, that would make sense, because Pluto was going over throughout Sagittarius, over all those planets, so it was making me physically fit and sporty. And I decided to play tennis just to keep myself in shape for volleyball season. And because I was irritated that I was on the you can't fucking play tennis at all because you suck, you should probably just go play with a wall or racquetball or something so you don't have to chase the ball every 5 minutes team. The team that they don't have the heart to actually cut you, but they let the 50 people that really love Andre Agassi and are diehard tennis fans, like, let them hit the ball a couple times and switch them out of the one fucking match that team gets to have, while the varsity and the real teams get to go play matches and tournaments and stuff. So my freshman year, I was on that team, and I was pissed that I had to actually pull my grades up enough. See, it obviously, education wasn't a priority for me. That I had to pull up my grades enough and suffered actually trying to use my brain to make sure that I'm eligible to actually go to practice and then play in the one match that they allowed me to play all season. Because I'm like, why am I going to practice if I don't get to play? I was like, that's dumb. And yeah, so then I was pissed that I bothered with that, so I said, I'm going to show them. So over the entire summer, when somebody made jokes about, you should just go play with the wall, I'm like, that's actually a good idea, because I had nobody to play with. And I would just turn on my stereo outside, and the apartment complex that I lived in, I would just play against the wall for hours. And I did that every day all summer long, and even just in my free time when I'd get home, because I would get mad, and I would just fucking wail the tennis ball and the tennis racket against the garage. And by next spring, when we did the auditions for tennis, not only, surprisingly enough, and it was totally shocked to me, was I, grabbed by the varsity coach and said, you're actually not going to go to the alternative courts for practice today. You're going to stay here, and we're going to actually do some drills with you and see what you got. And I'm like, what? And then by the end of the first week of tryouts, he put me on junior varsity. So it wasn't even like the basic team. I went from the team that doesn't actually really get to fucking play and we just feel bad for you guys because you really want to being junior varsity. And by the end of that season, actually, because I continued to practice like I made varsity and lettered for high school. That was only 13 months from being, oh my god, I'm a shit fucking player, to that. So that's how quick my transformative phases go, and that's definitely kind of what's going on now as well. But the advantage I have now of actually having the role reversal now. Uranus Pluto square. Uranus represents, basically it's the flip, just taking everything and flipping it over. And the chaos that ensues with everything, basically going in all directions when that flip happens is just the side effects that has to be dealt with. Uranus is not actually, has any malicious intent to cause harm. That kind of ideation actually came from medieval associations with Saturn and the malefic and the Neoplatonic kind of perspective with fatalistic astrology. Because they used to use allegories and embellish stories with the mythological characters and archetypes to explain things, and because they were so wrapped up and creative with the actual characters, they treated them as if they actually had some sort of empathy and conscious beings, and that they had some sort of ego kind of motivations to act like man, and that's not necessarily true. That's definitely the fire getting carried away, which is definitely being showcased yet again by the examples in the earlier part of this video, as well as my behavior too. So, Uranus is changing everything that is associated with Pluto. Pluto being in Capricorn. Capricorn's associated with Saturn. So Saturn is the gatekeeper, the keeper of souls, mortality, the Grim Reaper. He's the limitations of our lives here, and even your Saturn cycles usually falls in line with when you die and major chapters of your life. So it's Saturn that is the referee. Saturn that decides what you're stuck with, what you're delayed with, when you get here, what you have when you're here, and when you die, and how you go out, and what you get next time, and what you have to deal with in the meantime. And as we added more planets to the equation through modern astrology, the quote-unquote less desirable associations with Saturn were thrown onto Uranus. So, essentially, Saturn has to do with the physiological world, the actual matrix looking from like a bird's eye view, or down on everything. So it is the top of the top, more or less. That's why it's associated with the 10th house. So it has to do with all of reality and the structures of our existence in general. So Uranus squaring that, Uranus is actually making everything Wonderland and flipping everything that would be normal, or people would expect or assume, or what their sensory adaptation has been basically conditioned to, is going to be completely clusterfucked and different. It's literally, the Wonderland analogy is a perfect, simplified kind of concept that I can get across to anybody to just generalize it. So if, for me before, I thought I was super smart, or at least I thought I was fooling everyone, and I was a total dumbass, and I was completely lacked any kind of self-awareness, and I was unproductive, and I wasn't contributing anything of value to anything, or society, or even to my family, or anything like that, and not even to relationships myself. I mean, I was faithful and stuff, and I was there, but I was just kind of. What's funny is that before this whole Uranus-Pluto square thing started to happen, I never talked, really. Isn't that odd? Like, I'd make noises and sounds and stuff and act like a child. Sagittarius moon here. But I never talked. In fact, I never shared my opinions or anything like that. And yeah, that would be also why the intense, when the Uranus-Pluto square first happened, why I basically had to be restrained against my will before I blew up on everybody and got physically, it brought the physical actual violence involved with it when I was blowing up on someone. Because I didn't like a lot of the things that was going on in my life with the people I hung out with, and I kept my mouth shut the whole time. Typical Libra problem. And then when the things that I really didn't like were exacerbated and escalated, it went to psychotic levels. And that's exactly, to sum it up like that without incriminating myself, that's pretty much exactly what was happening. So, after I got out, that took about, well, when I say got out, I was in psychiatric evaluation. I was still a hot mess. I was definitely different. Any people that I associated with before then, if I was in direct kind of communication with them and frequently talked to them, none of them have anything to do with me anymore. I couldn't even tell you we could get a hold of them and ask them what they think of me. Because even I exhausted all efforts to try to make fake accounts and stalk people down. And the reason why they don't want to have anything to do with me is also because I wasn't stalking them down to talk to them or just to, be some sort of creeper. It was because I was actually intentionally intending on causing severe harm to them. I'll just leave it at that. Plutonian to the core. Abusive, definitely so. So I was also diagnosed with psychopathy, antisocial personality disorder, which is also why, if you look on my YouTube channel, I did that psychopathy and astrology, basically lecture over the astropsychoanalysis, professor that has the PhD, and her research paper, and with her footnotes from Carl Jung and another astrologer's reference book from, can't remember. It's published with Luell, and I can't remember exactly what astrologer she was referencing anymore. But that I fit a lot of the criteria for that, and that's definitely so. So with Uranus squaring Pluto, that'll be affecting Plutonians, in a generalized sense. But for me, because Uranus is now, or it has been, influencing my Jupiter, and it's in opposition with my Mercury and my Plutonian signature. So my Plutonian signature is what made me kind of abusive. And it was my ideations, my toxic ideations, because Mercury and Scorpio in that archetype actually translates directly to poisons at some point. The scorpion has toxins in its tail. It can either be used as an antidote or it can be, lethal, depending on how they wield it. And I was definitely toxic. Definitely so. So, basically with Uranus also going over my Jupiter, as well as the square going on and challenging my Neptune and the facade that I had, it actually empowered and just overcharged my Jupiter even more. Because essentially there was that deflecting of, my Mars to Eris and then back to my stellium in Sagittarius in my 7th house that was then inflicting the trauma. But once I actually started to become self-aware and actually be aware of things that I'm not happy with myself about personally, like just things that I feel like I need to improve personally, not for anybody else but for me. And then I actually started to make proper steps in the right direction to improve those things or change those things. I began to feel proud of myself, and then I even felt better because I was being honest. And on top of that, I felt the sudden inspiration to be proactive, the Aries and Jupiter, to actually seek out educating myself. And that's also why I've taught myself astrology in the books and everything and all that. So everything that I was before is now going to be completely opposite. So if collectively, or the majority of people that I ran into before the Uranus-Pluto square were at least had a decent head on their shoulders, kind of were aware of what's going on, were grounded with reality, they're unfortunately going to be experiencing some euphoria and dissociative kind of stuff. We did have Neptune go into Pisces, which is, double whammy with the whole nebulous and, ungrounded stuff. And that will continue until the last few years of the decade of 2020. So everybody's it's actually just going to be a downward spiral, and it's going to continue to be a clusterfucked hot mess. And so the interesting thing is that as I slowly became self-aware of, the facade that wasn't actually fooling anyone, and then going back and seeing through social media and reflecting, that's also why I like to take a lot of screen caps, because going back and actually rereading my journals, rereading my social media posts, rereading even the private messages through my emails, instant messengers, or whatever throughout time, I've actually noted, like, when my mentality has shifted in certain ways, because I'm ruled by Mercury and it's got conjunct Pluto, so my my mentality shifts a lot. But when it has been the Uranus-Pluto thing, it's been even more intensified and exaggerated. If I don't even think that kind of context, word-wise, justifies the intense, drastic difference of it. Like, in fact, Uranus and Sagittarius, as well as Moon in Sagittarius, is known for and it being, trying to Jupiter in a fire sign as well. My medical astrology book says that I am prone for aneurysms just because of I have too much activity in my brain going on. So that would explain, yeah. Luckily, I'm getting the homeopathic stuff and trying to at least treat that, with some homeopathic remedies that I've made, and I'm well aware of that before now, because I think at one point or another, regardless if it's stress related or if it's, just my mental shifts like this, with my overcharged electromagnetic kind of, energy in my body. And in fact, when I use an EMF detector for like my ghost app thing, I'm actually sometimes higher EMF than some of the dead things and some of the electronic things around me. So I'm just, yeah, it's intense. But so basically, instead of that opposition between Pluto and Mercury ganging up on Jupiter, now Uranus has jumped in and actually just overcharged and is causing rebellious and being a loose cannon, which is the direct translation with Aries and Uranus, with my Jupiter. And since I have all that Sagittarius kind of stuff, that stellium in my 7th house and the Libra house, which I'm a Libra sun, it's now Jupiter's turn for the tug of war that's going on. And Jupiter's got Uranus on its side, and it's not only pulling the rope further away from Mercury and Pluto, but it completely pulled out from underneath them, and they're totally fucked and oblivious, and they don't know what's going on. That's why a lot of my negative ideations and mentality that usually translates to behavior and even the way I articulate myself and what I say to people is totally changing. In fact, me and Eustace were talking the other night. I've read some of those articles online, and I have plenty of psychology books and everything like that, and I'm well aware of just the kind of behavior, more or less, with people that are psychopathic, and I'm good with polarities, or looking at different kinds of opposites. So I'm well aware of what an empath kind of is like, and so reading some of those articles, I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. And what's fascinating is that over the years, I've taken like some of those psychology tests. I've even taken like the Robert Hare's like psychopathy checklist kind of thing. And what's fascinating is that I even have the saved images from those. Even like that, what is that one site? I don't even think it exists anymore. If it does, it's been totally dumbed down. It's where you could take, it wasn't the official test, but it was pretty much the same questions from the DSM to determine if you have any kind of mental disorders. And every few years or so, I would take that test just again for the hell of it, and I noticed that I was generally answering the questions the way that I felt, but the percentage or tendency for diagnosis for things was drastically always changing. One time I thought I was borderline. My mom thought I was manic depressive. Some people thought I had avoidant personality disorder when I was younger. Some people thought I was like autistic or had something else, which I don't blame them. And then I was officially diagnosed with psychopathy, and so I had manic depression, which would insinuate that I had feelings at some point or another. I was on depressants when I was like 12, 13 or whatever, and then not even 6-7 years later, I was institutionalized under psychiatric evaluation, and I was diagnosed after 2 weeks of being observed that I have psychopathy, like severe psychopathy. And to the point where I was dangerous. And I'm like, so I went from not having any feelings at all, like a 6-year gap. Apparently I had so much feelings and they were negative that I was manic depressive. And then sometime in between that, I thought I was borderline personality disorder. And then I was diagnosed with psychopathy. And then now, 7 years later, even though when I read like the psychopathy kind of, checklists and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I fit the bill, I fit the bill, I fit the bill. Even my friends will laugh at me and say, yeah, dude, that sounds so like you. It's like, I would never fuck with you or piss you off. And I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't fucking do that. Now I read those empath, checklists, and a couple years ago I was like, yeah, I kind of sound like that, or there's some examples I can think of with this time and this time that I sound like that one and that one. But the rest of the list, no. I was like, I'm starting to get feelings a little bit, but no. Now I read it the other night. I confidently, and there's even evidence to be shown through social media or people vouching for me, that I actually, every single one of the bullet points, I'm apparently checked off as an empath. And I'm like, so 7 years ago, my last Saturn meteor aspect, I was diagnosed with psychopathy. Now I'm having feelings, compassion, and being like Kieran First House freaking, wounded martyr shit and whatever. And I even think I've grasped the concept of guilt. Not guilt, but feeling bad, I guess. Where I'm just like, man, I shouldn't have said that. And then the only way that I translate that I felt bad is that the thought keeps coming back like, dude, I was such a dick. Like, it's not like I feel like, oh, like I'm gonna cry, but I'm like, man, why did I fucking say that? I was like, I just beat myself up. I was like, I was such a dick. And I was like, I think that's the closest to actually feeling like I did something wrong my entire life. I'm like, holy shit. And I have every fucking psychology book, almost probably, except for the new ones that are based off the new DSM-5, which I think is a big pharma conspiracy. Anyway, I have all the psychology, even PDF level references that are worth anything. And there's nothing in those. And especially since I'm very obsessed with disorders, because I've been pretty much a walking, like, montage of disorders. There's no such thing as a psychopath just becoming an empath all of a sudden. There's no such thing as that. And the only thing that I can even fathom, even astropsychology-wise, that explains that is Uranus flipping everything on its head with Pluto, and Pluto being associated with the psyche. But yeah, I'm starting to feel like I'm winding down. It is 2:53 a.m. What is going on right now? I'm probably just finally hitting the wall, like I'm burnt. 3:07. Oh, I sped forward, man. Not like 5 minutes matters, really. Uranus is, I guess, Uranus and Eris is kind of within orbit in a T-square with the Earth symbol and Mars in my second house, and yeah, in the 11th house. Physiological body. Yeah, I'm just getting tired. I'm just gonna go. I think I kind of generalized on that. I think what I was really excited to talk about, being a smartass in the beginning of this, was that I think it's hilarious, and in a way, it's karma to me with people just like randomly talking shit about shit to me, for no unprovoked reason. Just like I'm sure I did that to people, not just random strangers for the hell of it, but because I actually thought that when they were trying to correct me, that they were actually trying to insult me and make me feel like I was. It was basically just me deflecting my lack of confidence and certainty and emotional wounds, or lack thereof, or lack of emotions, or even compassion or caring for myself, that I was just deflecting and projecting that through my defenses and my behavior onto everybody else, and thinking that they were actually trying to be mean. And because I used to be ruthless, I mean, I still am to an extent, I kind of look at it this way, like, I still get to be the ruthless, mean asshole, but I get to use truth now to be mean, because truth sucks. Even when I'm facing the truth sucks. This is one of the rare times that, yes, it's not necessarily something to be proud of, things that I've done or the kind of challenges I've gone through. But I understand that I had to go through that in order to be where I am now. And I'm grateful, actually, in fact, to actually experience it on both sides of the spectrum, because I understand so much more. And I keep projecting my I'm like, my expectations of people being able to just grasp things that I do, I overestimate people's intelligence, because since I have dealt with the extremes and I've, have actual, either memories or events or whatever that have transpired, that I could see both sides. There's things that I grasp that some people don't. But yeah. Hi, Boo. Are you ready to come to bed soon, Boo? Boo? Okay. Well, maybe he's not tired then.
I'm not tired of
Yeah. Well, I was saying, if you're ready to go to bed soon, I'm actually finishing up my video now. I'm just gonna go. So, yeah, essentially, I think it's really funny. All the people that are gonna start acting like I used to, I am definitely a whistleblower for them with that, and it's kind of entertaining and hilarious for me to laugh at myself and just laugh at them, and then also to see when they start lashing out, and people are just like, how, they didn't say something like that. How do you know that? And I was like, I know that because I used to do that. That's why. So the person that knows best is the person that was in those shoes. And I was probably the worst with that. But I'm sure as the Uranus-Pluto square energy unfolds, and on top of that, the delayed effect with the T-square when Jupiter got into that, as well as the quote-unquote Kali Yuga sort of things, and when Uranus goes into Taurus also, Taurus is associated with stability, the second house of stability and self-resources, or just general stability of people's emotions or the way that they interact with each other. It's people's behavior and the way that they engage with each other and interact is going to get even more traumatizing and crazy. And that's going to be 2018. And then that's also going to be when Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn are all conjunct in Capricorn.
Good time for half hour.
Yeah, trine the Taurus in Uranus. Whoa.
Fun.
Let's not even get into this. I'm leaving.
That
Goodbye.
sounds fun. Everything is safe.